tonight I wanted to demo my metal amp. This is the second cigar box amplifier that I made. The box is a power supply from a jukebox that I found in the arcade place dumpster. Now the idea was I had a 4-pack of Dan Electro Fab Effects. 2 of them I used in the first cigar box amp, and then I had always wanted a univibe effect. And so I got a hold of a Dan Electro Chicken Salad, cheapy univibe clone. And then when I tested it, I discovered it didn't really sound that good unless you had a fuzz pedal before it. So I made the decision to put 3 pedals inside here. I had already made up my mind I was going to use up this flanger pedal and put that in here. So it's the flanger, the metal distortion, and then the chicken salad. Turned out to be just an unbelievable pain in the neck. This was by far the toughest build, and it took a real lot of time. There was a lot of challenges getting everything to fit in here. I mean, there's the C batteries that power the amp board, the speaker, the 3 9-volt batteries for the effects, and then the actual 3 effect units themselves. So it's incredibly tight in here, and I only screwed up a couple hundred times when making this. It was unbelievably horrible, and it put me off amp building for a while. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So why don't we crawl inside this thing and take a look, and I'll give you a little bit of a walkthrough of what's going on inside this piece of trash. Now for the top panel, I needed a piece of sheet metal, and that was a jump box from a car dealership I worked at. They threw it out, and it had a sheet metal front panel with a couple of gauges and switches. So that's where I got the sheet metal for that. I cut that out, had to remove the paint and everything. It turned out pretty good. The first switch on the bottom is the power, and then there's an overdrive switch. It's actually the limiter switch because the amplifier unit for this, the amplifier circuit for this unit is it's another one of those kitty tape decks I'm always going on and on about. The handle came off of some kind of power supply module that pulls out. It came out of a dumpster at a computer place. Moving on, you can see the front speaker grill. That's a fan cover from some kind of a PC cooling fan, pretty large fan. The speaker's some kind of heavy duty. It's got a large magnet. I guess that's a 4.5. I have to measure it. Now, looking at the side panel, the volume knob, that's from a piece of camera equipment. It's some kind of a knob that you would use to tighten the camera down onto the tripod. So I had to use some epoxy, like automotive JB Weld epoxy. And then looking at the back, you'll see there's 4 holes where I originally intended to put the jacks in the back. Now they're on the bottom. Well, when I went to slide it together, you can see how this unit slides together. Those jacks were bumping into the circuit boards for the pedals. So that was one of the huge oversights that I had made there. Again, on the back you can see, I don't know if I'm going to cover those holes up. I guess they're pretty cool just having them there. There's power on the right side, and the chicken salad controls. The chicken salad has a set and forget pot inside for the depth control. Rather than add an external pot, I just drilled it out. So it's something that I rarely mess with it. I like to leave it set where it's at. And you notice the wooden base, the plaque that this thing is set up on, that is came out of the dumpster at the car dealer again. It was Service Manager of the Year award, and they ended up firing that guy. Now I use, there's a couple of remote foot switches that I use to turn the effects on and off. They're different construction, different design, and they don't really match, but oh well. So moving along, this is some pictures of the inside when I was actually putting it together. You can see the first couple of pedals, how I hacked the chassis away. There's the chicken salad pedal. All these pedals had to be modded. They have the LEDs extended out, and the chicken salad, that's pretty much stock. I mean, I didn't really do any heavy modding on those pedals. It's just, you know, tapping into the inputs and the outputs, and the switches to turn them on and off, and the power. You can see the amp board in this next picture, and I was using a tiny little speaker testing as I went along. Got a little line sitting up there. Now there's that foam covering that wire. That's so when you slide it apart, the idea is to protect that wiring harness there, and it actually works. I'm not sure if that's a headphone jack or a mic in. I know there's another input on this thing somewhere. Now it's starting to get good in here. You can see all the hot glue, a little bit of the wiring. That's the power jack. Now here you can see I'm drilling out a washer or something. There was a lot of drilling. I think we broke around a dozen drill bits making this. I really would like to invest in a unibit. But I came up with the technique of using a syringe and putting oil in it and adding that for when I drill to keep the friction down. Now when I went ahead and slapped everything together, the unit failed to work. You can see on the right the 1/8 inch jack that's recessed, and what the problem turned out to be is the Danelectro pedals, the chassis are plastic and they're not meant to be grounded all the way around, meaning this jack to turn the effect on and off is connected to the ground circuit of the pedal, and when I grounded it, because I modded it, it's connected to the ground circuit, and when that grounded to the main ground, it rendered the pedal inoperable, which took me about an hour to figure that out. So I ended up drilling that hole out larger, mounting that jack on a piece of plastic, and using the automotive epoxy to reset it in there. So it's hooked on there. Just be careful when you plug it in that it's not actually grounded. So that was kind of a real bummer with that. I really panicked. And you can look at this overhead shot, see how incredibly tight it is in here. It's pulling it apart and getting it back together. I try not to monkey with it too much except for to change the batteries, because it makes me really nervous squeezing it back together and pulling it apart. And you can see here I'm in the testing phase. I actually got a guitar plugged in. Here's where I'm tweaking the set and forget pot. So this amp, like I said, it was an incredible hassle to build. It took an unbelievable amount of time to get this to work, but I'm pretty satisfied with the results. I like the way it sounds. It's got some real meaty distortion on it. I like to use the flanger in a lock mode, and the univibe is really cool too. The overdrive switch gives you a little overall volume boost, and it's battery powered, although I do use it with AC adapters at home. So it's a pretty cool amp, and I've never seen something like this, a homemade amp that has 3 effect pedals built inside of it, and that small of a chassis. So needless to say, I was really proud of myself when it worked, and it was a great learning experience. So part 2, we're going to go ahead and fire it up and do some sound tests on it.